What's the greatest document? I think the greatest political document that's ever been written is the Constitution of the United States, of course, including the Declaration of Independence. In other words, the founding documents of the United States. Greatest political document that's ever been written at a time when the world was not even prepared for such a momentous and an important document. And the reason why, let me just give you the reasons why. I'll be very quick and then you can attack it.
Okay.
You can take the contrary point of view. The reason is that because here, before the American Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were written, the individual citizen of a nation was not a free entity. The Constitution and the Declaration are the only political documents that are based upon a concept. They're not based upon blood. It's not based upon dirt. All documents, political documents prior to our founding documents, were predicated on blood and dirt. In other words, conquest, territory, possessions. Our founding documents were based upon a proposition that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and among those rights are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Assuming that person is a 21 or older property-owning white male.
Well, that happened to be the case. That happened to be the case in the majority of the cases. Not everybody was a. I mean, there were blacks. There were Creoles. There were Indians. There were all kinds of people who existed during the time of the writing and the formulation of the documents.
The Constitution didn't stand for that.
You didn't have to be a white person to fight in the Revolutionary War. In fact, the first person killed at the Boston Massacre was a black man. Okay.
So you're saying that black people died for this country and they didn't get any rights for it.
Of course, they got rights.
So you're saying, I mean, the Constitution did not provide any freedom for the several million slaves.
But no written document can erase bigotry. What you're talking about is bigotry. So
no, I'm talking an institution. There was an institution of slavery in America, and the Constitution did not free those people from that.
No. The document is, but it proclaimed that they were free individuals. But the political rollout, the political application of that, had to wait until the Civil War. We always knew there was going to be a Civil War. If you go back to the founding documents, Madison, Jefferson, and Jay, all of those people knew that the slavery issue was going to be the cancer that really threatened to kill the patient, their new republic. And that's exactly what almost happened, what almost killed us.
Well, nevertheless, though, it took, what kind of political statement is that? It takes 150 years to boot in? I mean, come on.
It does, because basically human beings are animals. Most of us are irrational. We act upon feelings. We don't act upon reason and logic. Look what's happening today. So it does take a long time for a system such as the Constitution. Prior to the Constitution, brute force was used by the kings, by the monarchs, by the dukes, the duchesses, by anybody who had any authority, even the Catholic Church. The Inquisition. In order to get people to obey the political mandates of the time, force was necessary to be applied. The United States Constitution is the first instance where the Declaration and the Constitution said that all men are created free. Whether or not they are free from bigotry or slavery, that's a different question. That's a separate question. From the
unlike the European systems, which are far more
the Europeans.
Yes, those people. They're far more sophisticated than your civilized butcher duty hat Yankees over there across the pond.
Yes.
What they have is they have a more streamlined government with multiple parties that form coalitions. In the United States, there's they have to go through one chamber, then they have to go through another chamber, and then it's the disagree, it goes back, and then finally they vetoes it, and then boom, it dies, and they get the 2/3, and then the courts can just say, no, we don't like this. It's so hard to pass legislation. Unlike the European ways that we just poop, and out comes out, we just poop out all the legislation we want. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, and it smells like poop too. Exactly. But democracy did not begin in England. It didn't begin with any of our founding fathers or mothers. It didn't begin with Betsy Ross. It was a concept that evolved in the Greek states. They didn't have perfect democracy either. Women couldn't vote, for instance. But the idea that one person, one vote is a Greek idea. It's very old. It's a very old concept. Now, has there ever been a perfect democracy? No. Can there ever be a perfect democracy? No. And so I don't know. I don't know why people are constantly running our Constitution into the ground and they want to overthrow it.
It's because the Constitution does have, as you said before, 150 years. They were flavor freed in 1865.
Yeah,
that's almost 90.
Yeah.
It's something like 90 years. A little less than 90 years after the Constitution was declared by the last state, or was ratified by the last state, then women, it was like, their time was maybe 140 or 150 years. I think the 1920s is when they had the right to vote. That's
but slavery is slave. Don't conflate slavery with women's suffrage, and don't conflate slavery with homosexual liberation and acceptance. No, don't. No, that's a liberal point of view. Slavery is a physical, forcible restraint of your freedom. The others that we've mentioned is the root cause there is bigotry. Bigotry against women voting, bigotry against homosexuals. Bigotry is a very different thing than slavery. So I really have to object to that.
Well, that still doesn't. What about homosexual liberation? What about women's suffrage? What about those? Why didn't the Constitution give them any?
They're challenges, they're challenges because they're not perceived by the general culture to be acceptable modes of behavior. That can change, and we've seen those changes. Women now can vote. Homosexuals now can even get married. So that's progress. That's democracy. It takes struggle. We need to struggle for our rights.
Why is it that places like, for example, the United Kingdom, for all of its problems, the UK, why is it that they were able to free their slaves? Or France, which was able to free their slaves long before America was able to free their... So in fact, some historians criticize the founders as wanting to rebel for the sole reason of keeping their slaves because England was looking like they were going to free their slaves.
Well, that's a lot of horseshit. No one really believes that theory. There's not a shred of evidence for that. That's just a hypothesis.
That's
an opinion. Yeah, you're welcome to your opinion, but I don't know.
What justification do you have to oppose my theory? Why should anyone doubt my hypothesis?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of the literature that you've read about the early founding literature of the documents. I've spent a lot of time looking at it because I've had to research many court cases, Supreme Court cases that refer back to the founding documents. And there's not a shred of evidence that the reason why we revolted against the King of England was because we wanted to have
slaves. Their legal opinions. Come on. But
anyway.
But without a constitution, they were able to do. Are we running out of time?
We're about 10 minutes, or almost 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Make some stupid, fancy closing statement about how nice America is. Yada yada yada.
America is the greatest form of government that's ever been created so far on the planet. It certainly is way ahead of whatever comes in second place. So I'm hijacking Winston Churchill on that one, okay? But his wife was American. So
yeah, you would know.
I know. I would know. You would not know anything. Goodbye, Alex. I'll see you at Area 51. All right. Yeah. Bye.